My name is William. I am a poor painter in a busy city. I do not have much money or a big house, but I have the greatest treasure in the whole world. That treasure is my sweet daughter Clara. She is my entire life. Clara was a very beautiful and happy child. She had bright blue eyes like the summer sky. She loved looking at all the wonderful colors around her. She always watched me paint with great interest. She wanted to be a famous artist one day. We lived in a very small and cold room, but it was always full of bright colors and warm love. I bought her cheap paper and bright crayons. She drew beautiful pictures of happy birds and yellow flowers. Her sweet smile made my hard life much easier. We were poor, but we were incredibly happy together. We walked in the green park every Sunday morning. We fed the small brown birds near the old lake. She pointed at the bright blue sky and laughed loudly. I wanted this perfect peace to last forever. But a terrible storm destroyed our happy life suddenly. Clara became very sick when she was 7 years old. She had a very high fever for many long days. I took her to the city hospital quickly. The doctor looked very sad and worried. He tried his best to save my sweet girl. The bad fever finally went away after 2 hard weeks. But the cruel sickness took something very precious from her. Clara opened her beautiful blue eyes slowly one morning. She looked around the bright room with total confusion. She held my rough hands very tightly and cried. "Daddy, why is it so dark today?" she asked softly. "Please turn on the light for me right now." My heart stopped completely in my tired chest. The bright sun was shining directly through the big window. The kind doctor pulled me outside the quiet room. He told me the terrible truth in a low voice. The sickness completely destroyed her gentle optic nerves. My sweet little angel was completely blind now. She would live in absolute darkness forever. I walked back into her quiet hospital room slowly. Clara was crying loudly in her dark and scary world. She reached her small hands out to find my face. I hugged her small shaking body very tightly. Hot tears fell down my tired face quickly. I looked at her empty blue eyes with deep pain. A painter's daughter could no longer see any beautiful colors. This was the most cruel punishment in the world. I kissed her soft cheek gently and made a promise. I would bring the light back to her. The kind doctor called me into his small private office. He had a possible solution for my sweet daughter. Clara needed a very complex eye surgery immediately. She needed healthy new eyes from a generous donor. But the hospital waiting list was incredibly long. We did not have any time. The doctor also told me the massive surgery cost. It was a huge amount of expensive money. A poor painter could never earn that much money. I felt completely hopeless and entirely broken inside. I walked out into the cold and dark hospital hall. I sat heavily on a chair. I listened to Clara crying softly in her room. She was terrified of the endless dark shadows. I could not let her live in pure fear. I stood up and made a crazy final decision. I walked directly back into the doctor's quiet office. I locked the heavy wooden door. I begged the doctor to take my own eyes. I wanted to give my bright vision to Clara. The doctor was completely shocked by my strange request. He refused to do the terrible medical procedure. But I cried and begged him for 3 long hours. I finally convinced the man. We signed a secret medical paper that dark night. The hospital agreed to do the surgery for free. But I had to tell a very big lie. I told Clara I had a terrible accident. I said dangerous chemicals burned my eyes at work. I said I was completely blind. The long surgery happened the very next early morning. They put me to sleep with strong, deep medicine. I saw the bright, beautiful hospital lights fade away. It was my final look at the colorful world. I willingly walked into the dark black night. I traded my light for hers. I woke up with thick white bandages over my face. My whole head hurt with a sharp, deep pain. The world was totally black and completely silent now. I felt very scared in the heavy dark room. But then I heard a familiar sweet voice. Clara ran into my room. She hugged my tired body with her small arms. She cried with pure joy and amazing deep happiness. She told me she could see the bright room again. She could see the blue sky outside the window. My huge sacrifice was a complete wonderful success. My beautiful angel was saved. Then she touched my thick white bandages very gently. She asked about my terrible fake chemical accident. She cried loudly for my dark future. I smiled warmly and kissed her soft hand. I told her not to worry about my eyes. I was just a blind father now. I could not see her beautiful sweet face anymore. I could not see her bright blue eyes again. But I felt her warm tears on my skin. Her happy voice was my new beautiful light. A father's deep love does not need real eyes. Love only needs a beating heart. Without my eyes, I could not paint beautiful pictures anymore. My old brushes and colorful paints were completely useless now. I had to find a new way to make money. My young daughter needed food and warm clothes. I bought a very cheap and old wooden cello. I learned to play the heavy cello in the dark. I practiced very hard every single day in our room. My rough fingers bled on the thick metal strings often. But the sad music brought deep peace to my soul. I became a poor blind street musician. I sat on the freezing street corner every cold winter. I wore my old torn coat and a dark hat. I played sad songs for the busy people walking by. Sometimes kind strangers dropped small coins into my wooden box. I saved every single coin for my sweet Clara. Years passed quickly and Clara grew into a beautiful woman. Her bright blue eyes were totally perfect and completely healthy. She used my eyes to see the bright, shiny world. She took acting classes with my cheap, dirty street money. She became a very famous and popular movie actress. Clara wore expensive silk dresses and shiny diamond jewelry now. She moved to a massive luxury apartment in the city. But she rarely visited my small and cold dark room. The bright lights of Hollywood changed her soft, sweet heart. She started to hate my dirty clothes and blind eyes. She felt deeply ashamed of her poor, blind beggar father. She did not like my slow walking and clumsy hands. She hated the cheap smell of my old winter coat. I knocked over a glass of water by accident once. She yelled at me with extreme anger and disgust. I cleaned the wet floor quickly with my shaking hands. I apologized to my beautiful daughter with a soft voice. But her sharp, angry words cut my old heart deeply. I realized my presence was a heavy burden to her. The sweet little girl from the hospital was gone. I decided to stay away from her bright new life. I stayed in my dark room and played my cello. I only wanted her to be truly happy and successful. I did not need her warm hugs or sweet words. I was just an old blind ghost to her. I walked back to my freezing street corner every morning. I played my sad music in the heavy falling snow. The cold wind bit my old face like sharp teeth. But I smiled when I thought about her bright eyes. My painful sacrifice was still my greatest proud achievement. I sat alone and listened to the busy city noise. I heard people talking about my beautiful daughter sometimes. They praised her amazing acting and her perfect blue eyes. My old chest filled with incredible pride and warm love. I gladly paid the ultimate price for her shiny success. Clara had a big interview on live television one cold evening. She was promoting her new successful movie. I really wanted to hear her sweet voice. I walked to the big television studio downtown. I stood outside the tall glass building in the freezing rain. I found a large speaker. I leaned my tired head against the cold, wet wall. I listened very carefully to the loudspeaker. The famous host asked Clara many interesting questions. Her voice sounded incredibly happy and very confident. The crowd clapped and cheered for my beautiful daughter. I felt very proud of her. Then the host asked a very personal question. He asked about her family and her childhood. He wanted to know about her parents. The noisy crowd became completely quiet immediately. My old heart beat very fast in my chest. I waited to hear her talk about her blind father. I hoped she would mention my hard work and deep love. But Clara was silent for a few long seconds. Then she spoke with a very soft and sad voice. She told a terrible dark lie to millions of people. She said her mother died when she was a baby. My father was a wonderful and talented painter, Clara said on television. But he died a very long time ago. I am a completely lonely orphan. I built my successful life all by myself. The host offered his deep sympathy. The crowd clapped loudly for her brave independence. I stood completely frozen in the freezing winter rain. Her cruel words stabbed my old heart like sharp knives. I gave her my own eyes to see the world. I gave her my entire life and my deep love. But she killed me on national television without any hesitation. She successfully erased her blind beggar father from her perfect life. She chose shiny fame and rich money over my true love. I felt a sudden sharp pain deep inside my chest. Hot tears mixed with the cold rain on my blind face. My amazing sacrifice meant absolutely nothing. I did not scream or shout at the tall glass building. I did not want to ruin her beautiful shiny moment. I just held my wooden cane very tightly. I turned around and walked away slowly in the dark night. I was officially a dead man to her now. The cold street felt incredibly empty and totally silent. I dragged my tired feet back to my dark, cold room. I picked up my old wooden cello and started to play. I played the most painful and sad song in the world. I cried for my lost sweet angel. She was dead to me too that terrible night. The sweet little girl who loved my paintings was completely gone. Only a cold and cruel actress remained in her place. But I still prayed for her bright safety every day. A father can never truly stop loving his child. Clara married a very powerful and rich movie director soon after that interview. He was older and had a lot of dirty money. He bought her a giant house with tall walls. He gave her expensive diamond rings and beautiful new cars. It looked like a perfect happy ending. But her new husband was actually a very cold and controlling man. He wanted to own her completely like a beautiful pet. He forced her to erase her old life entirely. He commanded her to never speak to poor people again. My sweet daughter was trapped in a golden cage. I accepted my silent role as a dead ghost completely. I stayed far away from her giant rich house. I sat on my freezing street corner and played my old cello. I just listened to the daily news about her famous life. I believed she was incredibly happy and safe. But the shiny Hollywood news told a big fake lie. Her cruel husband did not love my beautiful daughter at all. He only used her famous face to make more money. He forced her to work very long hours every single day. She looked incredibly tired in her new photos. The rich director had a very terrible and dark temper. He drank a lot of strong alcohol every single night. He became incredibly angry and very violent in their big house. He yelled loud, ugly words at my sweet Clara. He started to hit her soft face with heavy hands. Clara tried to hide the dark purple bruises with thick makeup. She smiled brightly for the flashing cameras on the red carpet. But her beautiful blue eyes looked completely dead and empty. She had no real friends in that fake rich world. She was completely alone with a cruel monster. I did not know about her terrible hidden pain. A poor blind beggar cannot see bruises in a photograph. I just sat in the cold snow and prayed for her happiness. I thought my huge sacrifice gave her a perfect life. I was completely wrong about the rich movie director. Clara finally decided she could not live in that dark prison anymore. She packed her bags to leave the giant house one quiet night. But the cruel monster caught her near the front door. He laughed coldly and locked the heavy wooden doors. He promised to destroy her famous life. He told her she could never leave his side alive. He had many powerful friends in the city police department. He threatened to ruin her beautiful acting career forever. My precious daughter fell to the floor and cried loudly. She was totally trapped in a very dangerous dark nightmare. She wished she could call her old loving father now. But she remembered her own cruel lie on live television. She pushed me away when I wanted to protect her. Now she had to face the evil monster all alone. The dark storm was coming for my sweet girl. Clara was trapped, but she could not live in fear forever. She finally found the courage to fight back one evening. She packed her bags and demanded a legal divorce immediately. She said she would tell the news about his violent abuse. She wanted her freedom back at any cost. The cruel director did not yell or hit her this time. He just smiled coldly and let her walk out the door. Clara drove away in her expensive car with a hopeful heart. She thought she was finally free from the dark monster. But he already planned a terrible trap. She drove toward a quiet hotel on the edge of the city. Suddenly, many bright police lights flashed behind her car. Loud sirens broke the quiet night air. Several police officers ordered her to step out of the vehicle. They searched her car very quickly and carefully. One tall officer found a large plastic bag under her seat. It was completely full of illegal, dangerous drugs. The cruel director placed the dirty drugs there earlier that day. He also called his corrupt police friends to stop her car. Clara was completely shocked and absolutely terrified. She cried loudly and swore she was totally innocent. She said her husband planted the drugs to destroy her. But the police officers did not listen to her sad words. They put heavy metal handcuffs on her soft wrists. They pushed my beautiful daughter into a dark police car. The terrible news exploded on television the very next morning. The rich director told reporters he was deeply heartbroken. He said his wife had a terrible secret drug problem. The famous actress was now a dirty criminal in the public eye. Her shiny career died in one single night. All her rich friends turned their backs on her immediately. The movie studios canceled all her big acting contracts. She was sitting in a cold, dark prison cell alone. She was facing 10 long years behind heavy iron bars. She lost absolutely everything because of a cruel lie. I sat on my cold street corner and listened to the radio. I heard the terrible news about my sweet Clara. My old heart stopped completely in my tired chest. I knew my daughter was a good and clean person. She would never touch those dirty, illegal drugs. I knew the evil director was behind this terrible nightmare. He wanted to punish her for leaving his golden cage. The police would never believe a ruined actress. They would definitely never believe a poor blind beggar. But a father's love is stronger than any corrupt police force. I packed my old wooden cello into its dark case. I wiped the cold snow off my tired face. I could not see the enemy, but I could hear everything. I had to use my deep darkness to save her light. My final mission was officially starting right now. I knew the evil director visited a fancy restaurant every single evening. I took my old cello and walked to that expensive place. I sat on the freezing sidewalk near the back door. I wore my dark hat and my thick, dirty coat. Nobody looked at a poor blind beggar. I played my sad music in the cold falling snow. Rich people walked past me with completely blind eyes. I was totally invisible in their bright, shiny world. But my ears were incredibly sharp and very strong now. A blind man learns to listen to the hidden dark shadows. I carried a small secret object in my deep pocket. It was an old black cassette tape recorder. I used it to listen to Clara's sweet voice from old interviews. I waited patiently in the freezing cold for 3 long nights. I wanted to catch the cruel monster outside. Finally, the heavy back door opened on the 4th night. I heard the cruel director laughing loudly in the dark. He walked outside to smoke a cigarette with a younger woman. They stood very close to my cold corner in the shadows. They thought I was just a stupid ghost. They spoke in low and very confident voices. The cruel director bragged about his perfect trap to the woman. He explained exactly how he put the illegal drugs in Clara's car. He named the corrupt police officers who helped him. He laughed about destroying his beautiful young wife completely. He felt incredibly proud of his evil and dark plan. He said nobody would ever believe a ruined actress. He thought his dirty secret was totally safe in the dark night. But he made a very terrible and foolish mistake. He completely ignored the old blind man playing music nearby. My rough hands were freezing cold in the winter wind. But I slowly reached inside my deep coat pocket. I pressed the record button on my old cassette player quietly. The small machine captured every single dirty word. I kept playing my wooden cello with a steady, calm hand. My heart beat like a wild drum inside me. I had the sharp weapon to save my sweet daughter. The cruel monster was talking himself into a dark prison cell. I just needed to walk away safely with the secret tape. The bright light of justice was finally coming. The director threw his cigarette on the wet street loudly. He turned around to walk back inside the warm restaurant. My secret plan was working perfectly in the freezing snow. But then the old tape reached its very final end. A loud plastic click sound echoed in the quiet street. The cruel director stopped his feet immediately in the dark. The young woman gasped loudly in absolute shock and pure fear. The heavy silence felt incredibly dangerous and very cold now. The evil monster turned his angry eyes toward my dark corner. He realized the blind beggar heard his secret. "Get that old blind fool right now," The angry director shouted loudly. Two heavy security guards ran out of the restaurant door quickly. I held my secret cassette player very tightly against my chest. I knew I could not run fast with my tired old legs. I needed a smart trick. I stood up quickly and swung my wooden cane very hard. The heavy stick hit the first guard directly on his leg. He screamed loudly and fell down in the cold snow. I turned around and moved toward the narrow alley. My heart hammered with pure fear. The dark alley was completely black without any street lights. A normal person could not see anything in that thick darkness. The angry guards chased me into the black shadows blindly. But I lived in total darkness every single day. The dark night was my best friend. I knew every inch of this dirty old street perfectly. I felt the cold brick wall with my shaking left hand. I found a small space between two large metal trash cans. I squeezed my thin old body into the narrow gap quickly. I held my breath and waited. The heavy footsteps of the guards echoed in the quiet alley. They cursed loudly and tripped over empty bottles in the dark. They could not find the poor beggar in the pitch black. They ran past my hiding spot with heavy breathing. My smart trick worked perfectly. They finally gave up and walked back to the bright street. I stayed completely frozen between the cold trash cans for hours. The freezing winter air bit my sick lungs like ice. I coughed quietly and tasted warm blood in my dry mouth. My old body was failing me tonight. I felt incredibly weak and exhausted in the dirty snow. I wanted to close my blind eyes and sleep forever there. But I touched the hard tape in my deep pocket. I thought about my beautiful daughter sitting in a cold prison cell. She needed my help right now. I could not die in this dirty alley like a rat. I forced my tired legs to stand up very slowly. My whole body shook violently from the terrible cold. I used the cold brick wall to support my heavy weight. I started my slow walk to the police station. The city streets were completely empty in the early morning hours. Every single step caused massive pain in my weak chest. But the recorded truth kept my tired spirit incredibly warm. The evil movie director would finally pay for his dark sins. My sweet angel would fly again soon. I did not care if I died after saving her life. A father's duty is to protect his precious child from evil. I walked through the falling snow with bleeding hands and blind eyes. I carried the bright light of justice in my pocket. I was ready to finish this. I dragged my freezing feet to the central police station slowly. The tall building looked like a bright star in the dark night. My old body was shaking violently from the terrible cold. I pulled the important brown envelope from my deep pocket. I left it on the desk quietly. I did not speak to the busy police officer. I just turned around and walked back into the falling snow. My secret mission was finally complete tonight. The recorded tape would explain the entire dirty truth. The corrupt police officers could not hide the loud cassette recording. A few days passed very slowly in my dark room. Then the truth exploded everywhere like a loud bomb. Honest officers arrested the evil director at his luxury house. They found his dirty money and illegal drugs. The cruel monster was finally going to a dark prison. The morning television news reported the big arrest immediately. My beautiful Clara was declared completely innocent of all charges. The judge ordered her release from the cold prison right away. The terrible dark nightmare was finally over for my sweet girl. Her bright, shiny life was returning to her. I heard the amazing news on my small radio. My old heart filled with incredible deep joy. I wanted to wait outside the tall prison gates for her. I grabbed my thick winter coat from the small chair. I knew she would be very cold in her thin clothes. I walked out into the freezing winter morning slowly. The bright sun was shining directly on the white snow. Every step felt incredibly heavy and very painful today. My sick lungs could not take the freezing winter air anymore. But I forced my tired legs to keep moving forward. I just needed to give her the warm coat. I was only 2 quiet streets away from the prison gates. Suddenly a sharp, deep pain exploded in my weak chest. I tasted warm, salty blood in my dry mouth again. My tired old legs completely failed me this time. I fell down heavily on the cold, wet sidewalk. The white snow felt surprisingly soft and very peaceful now. I could not stand up again. My sick body was completely empty and totally broken. The long, painful journey was officially coming to an end today. I hugged the thick winter coat against my chest. I thought about Clara's bright blue eyes one last time. She would step into the beautiful warm sunlight very soon. She was finally safe from the evil dark shadows. A poor blind beggar successfully defeated a powerful rich monster. I did not feel the freezing cold winter wind anymore. I only felt a deep and beautiful warm peace inside. I smiled brightly at the empty, quiet street. I closed my blind eyes for the very last time. I left this cold world with a truly happy heart. Clara walked out of the tall prison gates hours later. She looked very frail and small in the pale light. The cold winter wind bit her pale skin. She wore very thin and simple clothes. She stood alone on the quiet, freezing street. A kind police officer walked toward her slowly. He carried a heavy brown envelope and an old wooden cello case. He found the items near an old man on the street. He gently handed the items to the young woman. Clara took them with shaking hands. She opened the brown envelope very carefully in the cold. She found an old medical report and a small diary. The small book had dry red blood on the cover. She recognized the ugly and rough handwriting immediately. She started reading the pages with wide eyes. Every single page told the heavy truth about her life. The terrible chemical accident was a complete dark lie. The medical report proved the massive secret sacrifice. She was using her poor father's own eyes to see. He willingly walked into the dark for her. Clara stood totally frozen in the biting winter wind. The heavy truth crushed her chest like a stone. She finally realized the poor blind beggar was her father. He sat in the freezing snow to protect her. She had completely rejected the man who saved her. She clutched the bloody diary tightly to her heart. She sank down into the cold white snow heavily. The quiet winter morning broke with her desperate loud cry. She screamed his name into the empty cold air. Hot tears fell from his beautiful blue eyes. But there was no warm answer from the empty street. She finally saw the true world clearly through his eyes. But her loving father was completely gone forever. She was finally free from the cruel monster. But she felt incredibly lonely in the bright light. The bright sun rose slowly over the quiet city. The warm golden light touched the white snow gently. Clara sat perfectly still for a very long time. She held the old cello case like a precious treasure. She had lost her father, but found his true love. She slowly stood up with a new quiet strength. She wiped her wet face and looked at the sky. The spirit of his sad music lingered in the air. The long shadow of a father vanished completely. Clara walked forward carrying his bright love forever.